Hey there. Welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, if you see someone being followed, please tell them. The umpire who fancied me. To preface, I typically go grocery shopping at around 7 or 8 p.m. nowadays since the store is less crowded around then. However, I try not to go unless I have to because 1, COVID, and 2, being out after sundown doesn't feel comfortable for my safety. I'm a 5 feet 110 pounds woman. Despite this, the area I live and shop in is what I would consider to be safe, so going for a quick grocery run a little later in the evening has felt okay lately. This one's a bit long, but I have been wondering recently what could have been. So about 2 weeks ago I was at my usual grocery store at around 7 p. I read somewhere online that you should make your trips to the store 30 minutes or less, and being the Gemini that I am, I knew I would have to make a list on my phone to follow or I would dawdle. I began my trip in the produce section, essentially only looking up from my phone to step out of people's way or to grab what was on my list. There were more people in the store than there were usually in the evenings when I go, so I had to make a few laps to wait for folks to clear certain areas that I needed to get to. I first realized I needed to do this when I was at the carrot section, but since it was too crowded, I figured I'd circle back in a minute or two and grab something on the other side of the section in the meantime. Trying to determine where to go, I looked up from my phone and began walking towards the bananas. On my way to get them, I just kind of looked forward blankly, not really thinking of anything besides my task at hand. This was short-lived because a man in a gray zip-up hoodie and a black baseball hat caught my eye as we walked past one another. I was going one direction and he was going the opposite. Nothing really stood out about him besides the fact that he was looking at me and that he was walking really fast. I didn't think anything of it and kept forth towards the bananas. As I gathered my produce and a few things along the way back to the carrots, I passed this same man again. He made eye contact with me again. Normally, I'm not one to really make eye contact with other patrons, I'm a mind my business kind of person, but his demeanor just caught my eye. I also noticed that he was the only person in the section not carrying anything. It had to have been at least 3 minutes since we first passed one another, so to think that he was just kind of perusing around and not getting anything was strange. It's not like he just got there either. As I finally get the carrots, I make my way over to the bakery section and the man passed me once again. This time, I didn't make eye contact but I turned around to see where he was going. This sounds silly, but the way he was moving around the store didn't make sense. I was working my way from the front to back and he was walking erratically in all different directions. There is only one entrance and exit to the store, so it's not like he could have come in from the other direction. Might I remind you, he still had nothing with him. As I begin to turn my head to see what this man is doing, another guy runs past me wearing all black. Okay, strange. But he ran so close to me, the hair that was in front of my left shoulder was blown behind my back from the gust of air he blew past me. Since I was already turning my head, I sat down to see where this man was going. He had run over to the man that was passing by me frequently, and they were both looking right at me and talking to one another. They were about 30 feet away from me, so I couldn't make out what they were saying. I also only looked for maybe a second because it was at this point that I started to get pretty anxious. I'd like to mention that I have GAD, so when I'm in suspicious situations that might flare up anxiety, I really try to talk myself down from anything that might be illogical. I mean, who would follow me in a grocery store? I wasn't sure what to make of what I was seeing. In an attempt to soothe my anxious thoughts, I decided to continue shopping and tried not to fixate on the two men. I looked back down at my phone and realized I forgot to grab lemons from the produce section, so I was irritated that I had to go back. I began walking, head down, when a woman knocked my shoulder. I'm already feeling a myriad of emotions at this point, and to be touched by a stranger during a pandemic. Oof, I was really annoyed. I looked back up behind me to see who could have possibly been clumsy enough to knock into a stranger when my eyes locked with the woman who bumped me. Now, this is kind of difficult to explain, but stay with me. It's a pretty popular thing among women to communicate solely through eye contact and body language. Now, I know that all people of all genders do this, but for women specifically, it's different. I've been out with friends that have told me save me from this creep. Without saying a single word. So despite the masks and the distance between us, something in me told me to listen to her. She rolled her eyes downwards towards the floor, as if a ball were rolling past our feet, in the exact direction of the men that were looking at me and lapping me. She didn't look directly at them, but I knew she was indicating she was about to say something about them. She looked back up at me, and in a whisper shout told me, "Heads up." My stomach sank. I knew I wasn't just paranoid. Someone else had noticed that something weird was going on. I walked past her to her right and said MHM to indicate that I understood what she meant. It was at this point that I needed to get out of the store without looking panicked or raising suspicions. When I told my boyfriend this story, he questioned why I didn't just leave right then and there. First off, I had a basket full of produce that I needed to pay for. Second, I didn't want to raise suspicions or alert these men as to why someone they're following is suddenly making a run for it. So I swiftly began to navigate the aisles to gather a few more things on my list. As I moved through the store and looked down the aisle to see what items were where, one of the men was in each aisle walking towards me. Every aisle I went down, one of them was there. I was freaking terrified. I decided it was time to go. I went to self-checkout and hauled ass. I did my best to appear calm, but I know I looked frantic. Since it was dark outside, I did not feel comfortable walking to my car by myself. Once I was done, I approached 3 employees chatting amongst one another. I luckily got the attention of a female store manager and thought on my feet. I told her that my ex-boyfriend was in the store following me and I needed to be walked out. In hindsight, I probably should have alerted them to what was actually going on. But I wanted to get the frick out of there, no questions asked. And she didn't ask questions. She said, "OSHT, okay, I'm getting security to walk you to your car." And as the guard appeared from the back of the line waiting to use the self-checkout, so did the 2 men. They made eye contact and broke left/right, one went left, one went right. When I tell you I almost pissed myself, my God, my heart was in my throat. Luckily, I didn't see the men outside. The last I saw them was by the self-checkout. The security guard so kindly walked me to my car and made sure I drove away, which I am so grateful for. I called my boyfriend sobbing since my anxiety was so high at this point, and he advised me to take a different route home and make 4 right turns if I thought anyone was following me. For precaution, I stayed at a friend's house that night because I was so anxious. I'm so grateful nothing happened to me and that I am here. But I cannot thank the woman who warned me in the store enough for validating my suspicions. If you witness anything that looks sketchy/weird, please tell or warn someone. I haven't heard about any kidnappings or crimes towards women in my area recently, thank goodness. It just scares me to think what could have possibly happened and what kind of people are out there. I think it goes without saying that I am no longer going shopping after sundown nor at that store. I'm blanking on where I heard this, but I think it really applies to how I felt that night. It's better to be safe than sorry, and to be paranoid than dead. Okay, so this happened when I female was either 13 or 14, I don't remember. I'm 27 now. I forgot this happened until recently. My buried memory came to light. I hope this belongs here. I'll delete it if I'm told otherwise. On to the story. Okay, so at 13 to 14 I had my very first part-time job. I sold t-shirts at a softball tournament. Basically my sister and I would sit on those foldable chairs and sell t-shirts that were sponsored by the softball tournament. We'd be out there from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. This guy who worked as an umpire for the tournament would come by our booth and talk to us. My sister was maybe 16. Anyway, he would always give me a lot of attention, and every time he wasn't on the field he'd come by and talk to me. His name was Ben. Ben had blonde hair and blue eyes and was skinny and like 6'1". He also was at least 35 years old. I had just gotten a cell phone. A little flip phone. And one time he came by while my sister was gone. She might have gone to the bathroom, I can't remember, but basically I'm alone with this guy. I should say at 13-14 I was already not a good kid. I loved male attention and was constantly starved for it. Ben sees I have a little flip phone and asks for my number. I stupidly give it to him. He leaves. My sister comes back and she's none the wiser. The next 2 weeks I am on the phone with this guy every single night. Just non-stop. And we had plans to meet, but for some reason we never did. I wound up having a crush on a guy my age and lost touch with Ben. And since then I never thought about Ben again. Until now. Thanks therapy. But frick, to think about how I was basically being groomed to meet up with a pedophile. And to think about how many underage girls at the softball tournament this guy was getting off on. Like what the actual frick. He may not have succeeded with me, but who knows who he did succeed with. So to the pedophile umpire that I almost met up with, I hope we never meet again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.